When I got to be about 15, 16 years old, my dad was still working in town. Both my older brothers had to go to war. And I heard about this job a farmer had and needed a young hand. And I walked 15 miles that day barefooted to go see if I could get that job, and had a place to stay down there. When I got there, and the man hired me. And I worked there several weeks, and he had a little horse he wanted to sell, and I always wanted me a horse, so he gave him $40 for that horse, and I was going to work it out on his farm, driving the tractor and whatever. And so I was going to ride that horse. He wasn't broke to ride, so I got on him one day, and I was going to ride him from 15 miles back to our house. And he didn't want to go, so he'd just turn around and go back to the barn where he stayed. And I told the man, I said, I can't ride him home because he don't want to go. He said, well, we'll put him in some trailer out here and get my son to drive you and your horse home. And so we did, and he pulled up in our yard, and our dog ran out there, and he ran over our dog and killed him. We got the horse out, and we had a lake on our farm, and about a quarter of a mile from our house. And I rode him down to the lake to get him a drink of water. So he waded way out in the mud and water, got bogged down. I couldn't pull him out. We had a tractor, but it was up at my uncle's house, and didn't have no car there. And I just couldn't pull him out of that. He was bogged down. He couldn't get out. And I went to the house and told my mother. And after a while, I went back down. I thought maybe he had worked himself out of that mud. And he was out in the middle of the lake floating around, already got loose and drowned. So I never did get to ride him over 15 minutes altogether. And that was the end of my horse riding days, I guess. And let's see, Justin. I can't.
Right. The pranks you pulled when y'all were teenagers. Talk about funny stories when you were teenagers.
Whenever you were with your cousins.
So I found me another job up close to Dallas, and I stayed with these people, and found me a job in Dallas, and so a bunch of us boys and girls would take this Urena feed sack and fill it full of straw. We'd tie a string onto it, and we'd lay it on the edge of the road at night, and we would hide out behind the trees, and cars would come along and think, oh, there's a sack of feed. They would stop, pick the sack up, and we'd jerk the string, jerk it out of their hands, and they would take off scared to death. We'd play that, called it the sack trick for 2 or 3 years, I guess, before everybody around there learned what it was. And that was about close to the end of my running around days.
Talk about that boy you worked with at that farm that fell asleep, fell off the back of the tractor.
Oh.
And the young chicks.
We were baling hay one day for this man, and I was driving the tractor, pulling the hay baler, baling hay, and this young boy, he was 16 years old, he was driving another tractor, pulling the rake to rake the hay up in a windrow so I could pick it up with the baler. And down at the end of the road was a ditch about waist deep. And I looked over there at him. There went the tractor and the rake all by itself. Wasn't nobody on it. I looked back and that boy had bolting the seat on the tractor he was driving broke, and he fell off, and that rake just raked him up in a windrow along with the grass. And I jumped off of my tractor and run over there and jumped on that one and stopped it about 10 foot before it got to that big ditch. And that rake had cut his face up pretty good and tore his head up.
Broke his shoulder, didn't it?
And no, not that time.
Oh, okay.
And that was AJ got that tractor run over him.
Who was that boy with you? Breaking
That was that family that lived up there where
there.
Ben Ethel lived.
Their boy.
That's where he lived. But he went to sleep, I think, sitting on that tractor when that seat bolt broke, and he fell off, and that rake picked him up and just raked him up right along with the hay. And
Is he the same one that had the young chicks?
now that's his brother-in-law.
Talk about his brother-in-law.
So this boy that fell off the tractor, he had a real pretty sister, and she married an old boy that worked with us. And so one day we started in Dallas to take a load of feed up there to run it through a mill to grind it up. I was really working for a dairy. And so they had a big feed store up in Dallas, and so we would take a load of hay up there about once a week, and run it through the mill, grinding mill, and make cow feed out of it, mix a whole bunch of stuff up. And so one day the old boy and me, his brother-in-law to the boy that fell off the tractor, went to help me. And I had bought me an old dollar pocket watch. And he wanted to look at my watch. And he sat there most of that day looking at that watch. And I said, man, I'd like to have one like this. I said, tell you what, I got a guitar and the case to it and the gold ring at home. I'd trade you for this watch. I said, well, that's 17-jewel watch right there. And he said, well, I'll trade you a guitar and a gold ring and the case to the guitar for it. And I thought, since he sat over on a stack of feed sacks, well, I'd just go ahead and make the trade with him, because I had to do most of the work that day anyway. And so we traded. Next morning, he brought the guitar and the ring. I gave the ring to my mother. And he walked across the field down there to get to work. And he told me he took the back off that watch that night to look at all the jewels in it, and said it ain't had a jewel in it. Because I just paid $1 for it. And but I wouldn't trade back because we'd already traded. But that's what he got for, and that's a good guitar. That's what he got for not helping me do the work up there. And I was 16 or 17 by then. Drive that big 18-wheeler truck loaded down with hay right through Dallas. No driver license, no nothing. So I had a pretty hard time while I was working there. And then a year or two later, I got me a job at a packing house, and I stayed there 13 years. And but Helen and me got married in February of 1950. And let's see where I was. Yeah, I was still in Dallas working.
Go back and talk about before y'all met, how you went on a date with that.
So back before marriage, I come to town one Saturday night. I always liked to go to the midnight picture show. They usually had a good show. It was the midnight show, and so I knew this old boy. I'd seen him a time or two, and I run on to him there in front of the theater. He said, I brought my sister and my girlfriend with me, and I said, would you like to sit with us? And I said, yeah, I'll sit with y'all. And so this boy's sister and me sat together, and this boy sat with his girlfriend. Us four sat together. And after the show was over, they'd turn the lights on all in the theater. You could see real good. And I don't know if this girl had ever been to a picture show or maybe even to town. But when the show was over and they turned all the lights on, well, I got up, she got up, I looked at her chair to turn it up so the other people could get by and get out, and there was water all in her seat of her chair, and it had run down, hit the floor and running down toward the screen. And I guess she sat there, didn't think they had a bathroom in the theater or what, and just wet in her pants. That's all I could figure out, but that was the first time I met her, and it was the last time. And just some funny things like that happened along.
Talk about that boy you went to that cafe with. Rode to Interurban down there.
That was the same.
Same one?
No, that was the same boy, but
yeah.
Different. So we lived down pretty close to Italy. One Saturday night, I got to Italy somewhere thumbing a ride, I think, and run onto this boy. And this girl I sat by, her brother, and he said, "Just go to Waxahachie on Interurban." We had Interurban. You could ride from Italy to Dallas on it for about 10 or 15 cents.
But the girls wasn't with you that time.
So he talked me into going to Waxahachie, and so we went to the Interurban stop, got on, and we could go to Waxahachie for a dime. And we got off in Waxahachie, and I had a little bit of change in my pocket. We went to a cafe there in town. He had to have something to eat and drink, and I did. And I got to thinking, well, he was a big talker and a bragger, and I knew I didn't want to go to the movie with him. So I went to the bathroom in this restaurant, and I raised the window up in the bathroom and crawled out that window and run downtown in Waxahachie to the Interurban station. And the first one headed south, I got on it and went back to Italy, and then I don't remember how I got home from Italy, but I haven't seen him since. I guess he thinks I'm still in that bathroom. That was over 50 years ago. So I know he always wondered what in the world happened to me. But things like that happened to me growing up. And right now...
Any other funny stories happened around your teenage years before you got married? Anything?
When you met me and got married, it'll be altogether different.
Yeah, we'll do that together.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of...
Right now, I can't. They won't come to me just.